Hello and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool.
So I want to do a follow-up to last week, how I talked about conformism and ideological possession.
Yes.
Because I was going to put a comment for that, but I thought it'd be better to talk about it.
All right.
Then we can discuss it. But before that, you wanted us to share a story.
So, I'm driving home from work. I worked, done some shoveling, pretty tired. And I see the driveway in, and it's being mangled. And so, it's like, okay, park my car in the roundabout. Not legal. Kind of a weird roundabout. Get out of the car, going to go get a shovel. Then I see someone's driven their trailer and Jeep through in there. And so that's what ruined the road. I also see the plow trucks out. And so, okay, just wait for Dad to come back in to plow the section of road. And so, while I'm waiting, the Jeep turns around and leaves. And then my dad's roommate gets in his vehicle. And he takes a turn. And he decides not to do a 3-point turn, but just a turn. And so, the way the snow is there's about 10 inches of hard snow that's been packed by all the driving on it. And if you go off that hard snow, you're going to fall into the void of soft, powdery snow. And so, he fell into the void of soft, powdery snow and made a mess. And so Dad came back and we helped get him out. And then my dad's looking at this mess and he's thinking, all right, I'll just clean this up with my truck. And I go off to get my car back in. So I start in the car, drive in, and our dad's truck is stuck in this place. And so I spend even longer getting the truck out. And then when I'm looking for my keys to get here today, I cannot find them anywhere. It's like, oh no, did I drop them while working in the snow? So I'm looking around. Okay, what did I do? Where are the spots the keys could be? And I turned to my car because I'd unlocked the trunk to get gear out of the car. And my trunk, you have to put the keys in. And my keys are just happily sitting there in the trunk. And yeah, I'm a little worried about my absent-mindedness in that matter. But it's just kind of sucked of coming home. It's like, oh, I did 2 hours of hard shoveling, and then had to do another hour of hard shoveling. Okay, your correction.
Sure. All right, so what did we talk about at the end of last week? Do you even remember? Or last time? Because we were talking about the idea of how ideological possession can necessitate genocide, essentially.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to describe the thought surrounding that very well. This is not the process which is how genocide occurs. This is a theory for how genocide occurs. This is not my theory.
It was the lines that if someone's not following your ideology, then they're your enemy, and your ideology.
Right. I'll talk about that more. I was just wondering why we brought it up, if you remembered.
Probably just happened.
So yeah, I'll go over it. I forget the philosopher who came up with this. I've added in my own thoughts into it though, because I don't entirely agree with him, and I don't totally understand his point, and I think that's partly due to my disagreement about human nature. But yeah, I thought I'd define it better because and maybe we can make it more of a discussion than just reading a definition, because I think there is room to criticize this and to get a stronger definition than the one from my secondhand understanding. Obviously, this philosopher's position is fairly strong, but once it's filtered through my brain, and then 2 months passed, it gets much weaker. So I'll just lay out the basic principles and go through it, and feel free to interject, and I might just have a little side things. So people tend to be rational as individuals,
yep,
and conformist in groups. And
So, just quick question there, even. What is conformism? What's conformist?
So conformist is where you where you try to do what is considered proper by the group and not to leave that. So if you were conforming in a high school sense, you might not play video games because that would make you seem like a loser. This would be a bit older. You might not play video games or do D&D, let's say, because that'd make you a bit of a loser. So you conform to whatever's popular.
All right, because I've heard conformist before, and it's sort of one of those terms of, oh, you're conformist, and then I'm sort of like, yes, I know what that means.
And I think it is important to define some of those terms, things like socialism and like last time I think it was we were talking about how both parties in the United States are right wing,
Yeah.
and they are, but that isn't a useful definition of right wing because
So they're both left wing. Or
no,
they're right wing to left.
no, they're both right wing because they're both individualistic.
Right.
However, that isn't a very useful definition. I think the original left-right definition.
Yeah.
So that's the political compass test is right and left economic, and then which is so socialism and individualism, and then the political compass does authoritarian and libertarian.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a very useful distinction. I think progressive and conservative is much stronger, and that is what the original definition of left and right was.
Yeah.
And so you could do a three-dimensional thing with progressive, conservative, and then your financial, and then your authoritarian, libertarian.
Cube graphs are a nightmare to look at, though.
Yeah, but you can just have a slider next to it, so you see the third dimension represented on its own.
Yeah.
And so the original French idea was that the parliament was divided into two halves.
Yeah.
There was the right half of the parliament and the left half. And this was just after they kicked out the monarchy, I believe.
Yeah.
And so what they were arguing about was, what should we do now for our government?
Yeah.
And so there was the right wanted to keep the monarchy in a sort of...
Controlled box.
more in a, what do you call it? Like what we have in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Where they're figureheads. They're just for show. And the left wanted to do away with the monarchy altogether. So what you had was... So they've been defined before as the right wing is preservation, and left wing is progress. And you need both. You need to move, and you need to
we've discussed this
preserve.
before.
Yeah, but this is what left and right were originally, just for clarity's sake. So people are conformists in groups typically. Why? Because conformism feels good.
And it's safe.
Yeah, I guess there's that. You if you stand out, you can get attacked and you can get bullied. Yeah. But why do people attack and bully you when you're standing out? So that's what we'll go into more, I guess, or this theory of why. So so it feels good to conform. Now I'm not sure why it feels good to conform. This isn't my statement, but I think it's tied. I think this is kind of almost circular reasoning, but not quite. Because I think it all feeds into itself. So I think it feels good to conform because it makes you feel righteous, and I think that righteousness leads you to conforming further. Mm-hmm. And so when a group is created, it might have a bunch of disparate individuals, but the longer a group exists, the more the individuals will shed their individual beliefs and move in towards confirmation of everything. Yeah. And I think this is actually what I was talking about either last time or 2 times ago, where I was thinking about the Sitchin Adam audience or the Sargon audience or whatever it might be, where these people were watching because they were right-wing, but they don't realize that people like Jordan Peterson, for example, are not right or left-wing. He's a reactionary, really, to extremism. Yeah. So if there is too much progressiveness in the world, he is going to espouse very conservative viewpoints to bring stability. Yeah. But if society was stagnating, he would be pushing for progressivism. Yeah. And I think when that happens, if he stays in the public light long enough, lives long enough, people are going to be quite confused. They're going to, wait, weren't you like super conservative? And he's not. He's a hero, I guess you could say, by his own definition. I don't think he would call himself a hero, but his definition of heroism is doing what is necessary to advance society. And right now it's falling apart by his own reckoning, so he needs to stabilize it. Yeah. So, and I mean, it's falling apart as in literally apart. Like, it's not collapsing inward like a totalitarian sort of system. So I'm not saying that there's a moral degradation of the system. There is, but that's not the... It's literally flying apart, like in Wordsworth's poem, "The center cannot hold," that sort of thing. I think it's Wordsworth.
It's fracturing.
Yeah. Ever-widening gyre sort of thing. Yeah. So I think people rationalize their conformism. Like, I wouldn't conform to this group unless... I think there is a sense of righteousness from conforming, because you feel right, you feel heard, you feel validated. It's sort of...
Well, it's school setting. A lot of people can relate to a school setting. And so a teacher puts a question up on a board, and you look at, And
I guess it's community.
You raise your hand to answer the question. Now, if you get it wrong, then part of the thing will happen is you'll be derided. And it sucks to be wrong. But if you get the right answer, and then someone else says out the right answer, someone else out the right answer, then that's nice feeling. Like, I'm just saying experience-wise you can relate to. Like in class, you get the right answer, that's good. You get the wrong answer, that's bad.
Yeah. So,
and when it comes to a moral group, there's no defined 2 + 2 = 4, so the mostest is the rightest. And so the mostest is what the group's opinion is, and so that's what's right.
yeah.
So if there's 20 people saying it's red and there's 10 people saying it's blue, then it feels better to be with the group that's right.
So actually, okay. So I think this is probably because humans are social, and to be social, so it does feel good to conform because that is what being social is.
Yeah.
That's how you have a conversation. You do not just change topics suddenly to something else to talk about your thing. You work with the other person. You both move towards each other.
Yeah.
So that is just a natural effect of humans being social beings. And what you're talking about, there's actually, you probably know about this. I think it's fairly popular, but there was this interesting study done with a bunch of lines, and they were all different lengths.
Yeah.
And so you had A, B, C, D, something like that. And they got everyone in the room to, they asked everyone, so which line is longest? And the lines, they weren't much different. Like, they looked all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But you could tell one was slightly longer than the others. Like probably 99% of people could tell one was longer than the others.
Yeah.
But it's just enough that you have to think about it for a second. And so they said, yeah, we're doing a study on perception, seeing. And so they got the person into the room with a bunch of other people who were plants. Mm. And so they went around the room and saying, okay, which line's longest? And everyone in the room said line C. And line C was the second longest line. Mm. Then they went to the person they're actually doing the test on, and they said, so which line's longest? And obviously line D is the longest. But I think it was 60% or something of people said line C, because they're... And this isn't a bad behavior, by the way. Yeah. This is you having the humility to realize you may be wrong. And if 90% of people are saying something's one way, it probably is that way.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that study specific. There's 2 other studies that came to mind when you said that. One is a very big room, and it's basically they're telling people we're doing a study, and go into this room, and it's this big empty room. And they have one plant in there, or maybe a couple. But anyways, the plants start walking in a clockwise or counterclockwise circle, and everyone just starts following them because there's nothing else to do. And
then there's the elevator where everyone stands facing the wrong way.
Well, there's the elevator one. The other one I'm thinking of is this study is a person literally just stands in a place, and maybe you get 2 more people, and you just start a queue. Then other people will attach themselves to the queue.
Well, that one's funny.
Even if there's nothing happening. And so what you do is you start the queue. This was a study that's done. And then the people who originally started leave. But the people in the queue keep queuing because they're a queue for something. And then it's like, what's this queue for? And no one has any idea because the original people started the queue.
Yeah, so that's how tradition's formed. And there is often a good reason for tradition. You do not want to lightly ignore tradition. So there's actually one with monkeys where there's a banana stuck at the top of a ladder. And the monkeys know it's there. Yeah. And if they go up, every single monkey gets sprayed with a fire hose. Yeah. And I think they're gorillas, actually. But anyways. Which sucks, right? You don't want to get sprayed with a fire hose. So then so the gorillas don't go up there because they know, like, okay, you go up this ladder, you get sprayed with a fire hose. That's not worth it. And everyone does. So one guy gets the banana, but everyone gets soaked. Mm-hmm. So even if there's a guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to do it, the others stop him. Because no. So then what they do is they take one of the gorillas out and they put a new gorilla in. And then that gorilla sees a banana up there and he's like, oh. So he goes and climbs up the ladder. And before he gets to the ladder, the other gorillas grab him and beat him. Yeah. Because they're like, they don't have language necessarily. And so they're just conveying, don't go up that ladder. And so then what they'll do is they'll take out another of the original gorillas. Yeah. And then that new gorilla will be like, oh, banana. He'll go up, he'll get beaten. They keep doing this until there's no original gorillas. Then they stick in a new gorilla. That gorilla tries to go up the ladder. The gorillas that have no idea why they're doing it grab that gorilla and beat him. Yeah. And the thing is, if they had gone up that ladder, they would have been sprayed with a fire hose. So it isn't bad to be a follower. It isn't bad to have tradition and follow tradition. you should always question, but do not destroy without rebuilding. If you destroy without rebuilding, that's destruction for destruction's sake, and that is how you get into chaos and nihilism and destruction.
Yeah.
And that is really bad. And that's what a lot of postmodernists did, was they asked very good questions, but all they did was destroy. They never added anything to the equation. And I think it kind of pains me to say this. It's kind of what Terry Pratchett did. Yeah. Like I was reading this this biography by him, where he was talking about the reason he wrote the stories the way he did was because he said, well, witches are always evil in stories, so I decided I'd make witches good. And he was just destroying cultural narrative for the sake of being interesting and exploring. And, I think that's, like, his generation was very stable.
Yeah.
But you look at his daughter's generation and our generation, which is kind of like a half generation off of his daughter, we're a lot less stable. And I think there was a lot of people...
Well, you break the glass ceiling, you let the rain in.
Well, I don't want to put it that way. You tear down the walls and the monsters come in. Yeah. You get a better view with the monsters. But Terry Pratchett and a whole bunch of academics around his time, a whole bunch of authors around his time, were tearing down society for fun because they were safe. Because even though they were playing with chaos, playing with fire, they had already had like 20 to 40 years of upbringing in order. So their minds are stable. Like, you couldn't actually mess these people up, right? Like, you push them over, they just bounce right back up. But their children are growing up in a world where everything's deconstructed. And I don't think that's good for them. And I'm not going to totally dismiss... Terry Pratchett's one of my favorite authors. And so I think he was doing something valuable. But I think he was... It's kind of like deontology, right? He was doing it for the wrong reason. I think it's fine to explore ideas, but not just simply because that's the way things are. Like, there's an idea of reconstruction where what you do is you write it. Let's write it a good witch and see where that leads. And then you realize, oh, this is why we need bad witches. Because without evil witches, people are seduced by darkness and magic. And magic, as we discussed a few podcasts ago, is the process by which you get things you haven't earned.
Yeah.
Dark magic is... White magic is just living life as you were meant to live it.
Yeah.
And good things will come to you. So it's just do your best and let the world take care of the rest would be white magic, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be summoning demons or flying around. You're just going to work hard and treat people kindly, and they're going to treat you kindly in return. That's white magic.
It's very boring.
But it's not.
Yeah.
There's actually... Sargon talked about something amazing. So when I was depressed, and even before that, like, I think depression emerged eventually as time of a symptom of something else. And even after that depression, this was still a thing. I wanted, for a very long time, chaos. I wanted the world to just be kind of cracked, upended, thrown about. Because I wanted something to live for. I wanted something, right? Like, I wanted something interesting. I wanted, like, a change, right?
Yeah.
And Sargon was saying how there's people who want this chaos and this change just because they're so desperate for any sense of meaning. They'll do anything for it. Yeah. But his life, he has worked his life into a position where what he wants is stability. He wants every day to be like the last because his life is exactly where he wants it to be. He's doing what he loves. He's got his family that he loves. He's doing what he wants. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, that is so... That is such a... Like, it's crazy that he hadn't experienced that chaos, but he understood it so well.
Yeah.
That when maybe he did when he was younger, I don't know. But when things are going good, you want order. When things are going bad, you want chaos. So everyone asking to tear down the walls, like they're bored, they're stilted. Mm-hmm. They're looking for something new.
Yeah. Well, it's another thing is you can look up to heroes of the past that did things, right? But those heroes fixed the problem. Now there's no longer a problem, but you want to be those heroes.
Well, so, like Hermes Trismegistus, or I think that's his name, yeah. You drew the picture of it, I think, on one of our podcasts, where he slayed the dragon. And then he fashioned for him a Uros, or a headband, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Urius. And when the hero goes out into the wilderness, he doesn't... disappear. Like when Gilgamesh goes out into the wilderness, he brings Enkidu back. He doesn't grow out his hair and start living with Enkidu in the woods.
Yeah.
He hires a prostitute to
seduce Enkidu.
Seduce Enkidu and tame him.
I mean, she was the best prostitute in the whole city.
Yeah. So what I understand from the Babylonians was they were actually like a fairly faithful sort, as in like you marry your wife and you stick with them type of culture.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that prostitute takes such a high place in it. But I guess that's the same with Mary Magdalene. Yeah, that's her name, right?
That's...
It's showing that there's a good heart in all people, I think.
Yeah.
Found in all corners of the world.
I won't say that with Mary Magdalene because there's a lot of disagreement
Also,
in the story about her. There's a lot.
Also, what's that? Drop the Roy, I think. The Right of Kings. Gilgamesh exercised that quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
And
no, everyone hated him.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird that they're... Maybe I don't understand their society. But anyways, my teacher actually, my psychology teacher, did a study where they had someone cross the road where there was a red light. So they just walk across the road.
Yeah.
They had a person, I think they had like a person with a radio or something telling them if it was safe or not in the distance. They crossed the road when there was people waiting for the light to change.
Yeah.
And so they had the person dressed up as sort of a bum with holes in their shirt, and they were kind of dirty and their hair mussed. Person stumbled across the road, and people didn't follow. They waited, pressed the button, waited for the sign to change, and they crossed. And then a few days later, they dressed a guy up in a suit, and they had him look both ways and then walk confidently across the street, and the other people followed him. So that is something else that leadership is very important within group conformity, and you will look to respectable people. I had a friend tell me once, I don't know if I've talked about this before on the podcast, that so he was a creationist.
Yeah.
And I said, why? Like, everything you know goes against it. And he said, well, I don't understand everything, which I think's, very wise of him, very humble. But his second part was, so you find someone who knows more than you, and then you trust everything they say. So you let's say you're sad. Yeah. So you go to your church leader and they tell you, yeah, this is how to stop being sad, and you try it and it works. So then you say, okay, well, so this is how you stop being sad. So I guess I'll just listen to whatever you say. So you say that the earth was created 6,000 years ago, then yeah, it was. I think that's very weird, but that does sound quite a bit like what is going on to a degree with ideological possession. You don't want to think about everything, so you let other people do the thinking for you.
Yeah. Well, I think there's... on the individuals and groups, if you ask a group of people something, you're going to get one answer. If you ask an individual something, you're going to get another answer. And what I mean by that is it's much easier to talk with an individual and actually understand what's going on. With a group of people, it's very hard.
Yeah, because they'll be afraid to speak out against the group.
And so a lot of time groups have leaders, and everyone's going with the leader.
And the leader is the one that might be allowed to push the agenda too.
Yeah.
But not too much, otherwise don't be a leader.
Yeah.
I think being a leader, you're trapped into your role. Adam from Sitch and Adam actually said something interesting, that he thinks that leaders don't radicalize groups, groups radicalize leaders. The leader sees their base, and then they adapt to it, and they adapt to it, and they adapt to it. And of course, not what they're only seeing is the vocal part of their base. So there is this groupthink is a psychological concept, and what it is the idea that everyone in a group thinks they know what everyone else in the group thinks.
Yeah.
And so they will act in accordance to what they think the group thinks. However, because they don't want to rock the boat, right?
Yeah.
However, everyone else in the group is also doing the same thing. So what you get is everyone's acting to the lowest common denominator of an imagined scenario. So everyone might be saying, oh yeah, we want, like let's say there's a group of like neo-commies or something. They might be saying, oh yeah, we want no government, we want no, like they're all saying that. But all of them are actually thinking, man, everyone else in this group is a crazy communist. I just want unions to be more powerful and to get paid more for my work and for CEOs to make way less money.
Yeah.
That's it. But everyone else here is a crazy commie, so I got to do my crazy commie act or they'll kick me out of the group and I won't be able to affect any change. And so that's what you get is you get everyone thinks that everyone else in the group is more extreme than them, basically, and they will act in accordance with that imagined extremism.
So with the group radicalizing the leader, do you think the supreme arrogance of nobility is a defense mechanism then against that? Of the plebeians are below you, so they can't influence, and so then you can lead them as someone with actual authority who's not controlled by...
That's interesting, yeah.
Because there's a massive difference between Asian monarchy, European monarchy, and British monarchy. Like, the Asian monarchy are godlike. From most literature I've seen, it's basically they're godlike until the people snap, anyways. But then European monarchy is what a lot of people sort of think of monarchy is like. Then you go to English monarchy, and they have a lot less power than you think. And
well, that was because of several revolutions.
Yeah, but they progressed to that stage while keeping them.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stopped me from fully agreeing with that idea would be we have a lot of elitism now still, and the elites tend to think they're better because of their education or morals. I don't know how that works entirely, because your morals,
well, I'm
making you think you're better would show that your morals are already...
I mean, that protects them from the people who aren't elites, their arrogance. Like, you're not going to have their ideas.
Yeah, elitism in general really bothers me. It's such a... But I think that is the other side of... So conformism can be very good.
Yeah.
However, it is also important to advance, to progress. Interesting. So schools were very focused on leadership for when I was in school. Yeah. Everyone's a leader. You got to be a leader. You got to be a leader, which I thought was kind of dumb. Because if everyone's a leader, no one's a leader.
Yeah.
You just have an anarchist chaos society.
Yeah, you'd get praise for showing good leadership.
When, in reality, the strongest leader should lead. That's actually... We were talking about libertarianism last time. That is the strongest argument against libertarians in general. Is that an authoritarian government will always beat a libertarian government in a war. Well, okay, I will give an exception. What's that city's name? Where Machiavelli lived.
Naples?
No, starts with in that region.
Sicily?
No, that's it.
Sicilia?
No, it starts with an F.
F? Frank? It's like F-E-R... No.
Well, Venice was one of them. One of the Italian city-states. That, you could argue, was a libertarian society that was so powerful, it could actually resist states.
Yeah.
Venice was another one, I guess, really.
Florence,
yes. Where the Medicis lived.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Medicis were kind of like a mafia, really. And they were powerful enough. But that's the thing. That's not libertarian in the end, is it? Because they seized power. In a lawless society, they created their own laws.
Yeah.
So basically any successful libertarian society is such because someone has taken the reins and is a very heavy authoritarian. Yeah. But it's not against the law to take them down, I guess. And the Medicis were killing each other left and right like crazy.
And people are killing the Medicis left and right.
And then you look at Venice, and they sacked Constantinople.
Yeah.
With crusaders. They brought crusaders to the holy city of Constantinople and sacked it. So, I mean, does it get more libertarian than that? You have no idols. Yeah. But, of course, they had the Supreme Doge, who they all agreed on. So there was a form of government there, obviously. Yeah. So, libertarians will eventually be conquered by authoritarians. It's the same thing with communism. There will always be someone in charge of communism because...
You need an organizer. Once you get more than 10 people, you need someone to organize them.
Yeah, and they will be the leader. And you can say that they're equal, but they're the one making the choices. Yeah. Like with Stalin, where he would clap when he would come onto stage or something. Everyone would start clapping, and he'd clap along with them because they were all equal. Yeah. So, we're all clapping for the country, and I'm just the representation of the country. It's like, oh, well, that's great. But if you were the first person to stop clapping, or you stopped clapping before Stalin, off to the gulag with you. Yeah. So... And someone else in the audience doesn't have that power. Of course, you can give that power with the sort of turning in your neighbors type thing, I guess. You can give people a little...
Yeah.
The same kind of people that probably are Reddit moderators. They just like that little thrill of power of, yeah, you get that. Same people that witch hunters.
Yeah.
You take that. So, people rationalize their conformism. So I think we've established that people are social animals. We conform. Whether or not we should, there's good reasons to do it. There's reasons to stand up for yourself. And it is interesting that if you think about it, progressivism does lead to elitism because elitism is the standard. Actually, I think I'm trying to remember. It was found that left-wing and right-wing people both respect leadership about the same.
Yeah.
But only right-wing people respected following.
Mm.
Which makes sense. Like the artists and well, I don't want to be too generalist, but progressives, people that advance society, the people that want society to advance aren't the kind of people that are going to conform to the order of society. So it does make sense. It's not really anything groundbreaking.
Yeah, so the rationalization of...
Yeah, so people rationalize their conformism.
So, I mean, that could be a short story summarizing that of, there's a plague going on outside the village. So you build a wall, and you tell people we don't go outside the wall. And then 50 years pass, and all the people that dealt with the plague are dead now. But they're still told we don't go outside the wall. And so now they're going, well, there's monsters out there. There's death outside the wall.
You must be doing this for some reason.
Yeah.
Or there's a pandemic going on,
Yeah.
and you all take your vaccines and whatnot. And then the pandemic becomes much better understood, and it turns out, let's say, cloth masks don't work as well as we thought. Or they don't work anymore. Because I'm not sure if they didn't work ever. Like, I'm pretty sure they're better than nothing at the very least. But people keep wearing them because that's your token of safety now. Yeah. That's how you feel safe. And I'm not making any definitive statements about that. It's you there was things you thought were keeping you safe at one point that it turned out they weren't, but you cling to them. Your safety blanket, your teddy bear.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. So the other part of that is I wouldn't conform to my belief, right? So you're still clinging to your teddy bear, right? Let's use teddy bears, less divisive. But you wouldn't be clinging to your teddy bear unless it actually had the power to protect you. So that's the rationalization. Yeah. You say, well, I'm not an irrational being. I'm clinging to my teddy bear because it actually protects me. So you conform. I wouldn't conform, me being a rational person, unless my belief was right.
Yeah.
So therefore it is right that the teddy bear protects me. So to increase this rationalization, the in-group and its leaders constantly reaffirm how good they are compared to the evil non-believers. Oh, you got your teddy bear? Yeah, I got my teddy bear. We all got the teddy bears. Or
don't go outside the wall. Yeah,
or look at me, I'm not going anywhere near that ladder. I cling to the wall. I don't go near that ladder. I'm a good gorilla. I'm the best gorilla. Look at me. Hey, you too, eh, bud? Yeah, we're wall people. We don't go anywhere near the ladder. We're the best. We're the alphas of this tribe. We're the silverbacks here. So, do silverbacks...
That's just a species.
No, I think it's a...
No, it's just the species of gorilla. It's the largest gorilla species, are silverbacks.
Okay. Right. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, is that something that emerges through leadership, or is it something that they are already?
Yeah, it's something that all silverbacks have silverbacks.
So there's like beta male silverbacks?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Because there is some animals that they change, like double in size if they're like leaders type things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's that extreme, but I mean, like clownfish kind of do.
Lobsters grow a lot bigger.
Yeah, not like extremely, but yeah. But I was wondering if like there's monkeys that change color or something. If they
no, it's really bad to change color if you're a monkey. You'll get murdered.
So people are constantly reaffirming their beliefs, right? So leaders and people who wish to be leaders can also purposely engage in this reaffirmation, because the reaffirmation is kind of unconscious. It's just sort of like, I'm signaling to you my virtue, you're signaling to me your virtue.
Yeah.
But a leader can say, I am virtuous. Come, stand with me, my brothers, for I am the virtuous one. Follow me. And if you want to be a leader, you can also engage in this affirmation, because people look up to the ones who give them doctrines. Because, as I said before, you're looking for a leader to tell you, okay, I trust you now, but I need someone to tell me what to do. I need someone to tell me what beliefs to affirm to, because if I want to conform, I need beliefs to conform to.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a leader, give people something to conform to. Give people, and tell people you are good for doing this. The others are bad, you are good.
Yeah.
Like, look at them. They are the money lenders, but you do not engage with that useless creation of fake value. You work with the soil. You're a good person, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So it feels good to have clear purpose from a leader compared to a more nuanced leader. The more nuanced leader is like, well, yeah, that was good, but I don't know. Like, maybe you should have done a bit better. It's better if you're like, yes, you did it. Good job. So for in Canada right now, we have this truck protest going on, right? So if Trudeau said something like, yeah, this is a good protest, but if you guys could keep it down, there's been a couple incidents here and there, but overall, yep, you're doing your... No one's going to like that. They're all going to be like, hey, what you've done nothing. You're just trying to appease everyone. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to say, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, keep the protests going. We're going to change the country. Or you say, you're disrupting the peace. You're destroying our country. There is an incentive for a leader. Yeah. Actually, this goes to the radicalization of the leader. But there's an incentive for a leader to polarize issues. Because if you're nuanced, no one wants to listen to the nuanced person because they're making... they're not making you feel good. They're making you feel confused. It's complicated. You're like, wow, I just want to support this issue 100% or hate it 100%. Can I just please have I just want to clear.
I want to be better than other people.
It's just clarity, I think. I think people like a bit of clarity. A lot of people like clarity. So it feels good to have a clear purpose, and there's an incentive to create a common enemy for those seeking power. Yeah. So if you want to become a leader, you want to tell people to conform, you say, you know what? There are people out there. This is how the no pineapple on pizza movement emerged, right? You created an enemy of totally rational people who have delicious, better pizzas than those non-pineapple pizza lovers. Those sick freaks that don't like fruit on their pizza. Strawberries work great on pizza. You can put anything on pizza. You just, ugh.
I'll draw the line at strawberries.
No, it's good. It's good.
No.
But there's these sick freaks out there that don't want pineapple on their pizza. And but, you know. It's like, well, I don't prefer it, but no, they've made it a hardline stance so that they can ascend to power, right? So, you create a common enemy. That's a very common statement. I think that's not very controversial. If you want to be powerful, create a common enemy. Get the people behind you. You tell them, we're not the common enemy.
Yeah.
We aren't those filthy pineapple pizza lover type people, whatever it might be. So, now that the non-believers are evil, you have even more reason to conform. Because you have a common enemy. But it also means to not conform is evil.
Yeah.
Because you are now on the side of the enemy. We are the pure non-pineapple on pizza. You wishy-washy people. Pick a side because you're either with us or against us. Pineapple is bad. Yeah. So if you're willing to tolerate that belief, you're willing to think about it. You're willing to consider. It's like, well, I might murder someone, might not. I might rape someone, I might not. You're like, geez, look, I don't want to deal with the person with a maybe. Like, I really don't want to deal with the person that's definite, but you maybe rape people? Like, I'm not dealing with that person. Now, that's much more extreme than pineapple on pizza, but it's a similar process, I think.
Yeah.
So, this leads to a purity spiral. Your ideology is the counter to evil. To fall astray is to fall to evil. That means that since you are the counter to evil, your framework is perfect and moral.
Yeah.
Because... the evil people don't have it. I have it. Therefore, mine is good. And
it's also a lot easier to oppose evil than to be good.
Yes. Yes, because virtue signaling. Yes. Yes, that's good. Yes. So, here's my question, though. Is your framework naturally perfect? I said it was, but I'm not actually sure about that. Is your framework logically perfect simply because... So, you oppose one group who is evil, but surely your framework could still... exclude more people.
Well, it can.
So it's not quite perfect. It could become more pure. I don't think it could become less pure, though. I think it's always a smaller, shrinking circle, right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
You can never include, well, we'll be okay with the pineapple pizza people who have it on Chicago deep dish pizzas. You can't do that.
No. But
you can say pineapple pizza, and I mean, come on, avocado's just as bad. So you can become more pure. So I'm going to say it's not perfect, but it's a ratchet. It's one way.
Yes.
Which adds to the purity spiral, I guess.
You can also have absolute purity, which is what we do is right and everything else is wrong.
But there is going to be... I think it's like when you're making like a clay pot you're throwing a pot, right? And the clay flies off and until the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
I think just by nature of the whole thing spinning to get the perfect shape, the little snags are going to fly off constantly. Like, you're always going to be losing ideologies and people. You're always going to have to become more pure.
Well, I mean, you're always going to be more pure, but you could have a pure ideal of drawing a straight line. Everyone's going to a straight line.
But no two people are the same. Yeah. So therefore, at some point, you're going to run into a difference.
Yes.
And one of those people has to be chucked out.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So, to be good, you have to support the maybe not perfect then, but moving towards perfection framework. To be good, you must support the perfect and good moral framework. Yeah, if it's not perfect, I don't know if this works. We'll keep going and see.
Well, I mean, perfection also within your framework could be not doing what is evil.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we are not doing what's evil, but if we learn about more evil, that will also...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, pineapple... It's not that...
Right. Okay, so here's one. You had... it was bad to be pro-Gamergate.
Yeah.
The media was all like, oh, you should be pro-Gamergate. And now it's also bad to like Jordan Peterson. And now it's bad to like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peterson wasn't famous before, like, while Gamergate was going on. So they didn't know about that evil yet, the corporate media. And Joe Rogan wasn't incredibly famous. Like, he was very famous, but he wasn't more powerful than, like, the top 3 other media combined.
Yeah.
Famous. Until recently, so didn't emerge that he was an evil to look out for yet.
Yeah.
It's like if you're living in Turkey, you've got your enemies, you've got the Christians, you've got the wrong kind of Muslim, you've got the Jews, you've got your enemies.
You got the crazy mountain men.
But then one day, the Mongols appear.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that is an enemy too. Our system, our Turkish system was still perfect. It's just we hadn't added every possible enemy to the list because the world's bigger than we are aware. Okay, so maybe something like that. Okay. Well, I'll work with it for now. So if you support the perfect and moral good framework, anything that goes against your framework is, by extension, evil.
Yes.
Although we're actually saying it might be defined by evil rather than by good, which...
It could be a mix.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to be evil. Therefore, you will go against your inner convictions to support the group. After all, it's perfect. So that goes into line with a friend who, even though it didn't quite make sense to be a creationist, that was the right way because the right person said this was the way. And this is a leader. This is someone you trust.
Yeah.
So I think this is what trust can lead to. So you have you have someone like Hitler say, well, we got to round up the Jews, for their own good. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem right. But, he's got his reasons. Or we've got to have these vaccine passports. But... that seems like a restriction of freedom, but it's for safety, and I'm sure they won't. They'll give the power back, so we don't have to, So I think you sort of rationalize away your own convictions, to support your ideology because it's easier than leaving the ideology, because suddenly
way easier.
Because especially if you're already in an ideology, that means losing everyone.
Yeah,
that it's kind of like death.
No, it definitely is.
Because you lose all your... And that's something... People are very social. You do not just destroy all your social connections in one go. That's dangerous. Now, what you don't realize often is that, especially in today's world, there is people waiting to pick you up outside.
Yes.
Often, like neo-Nazis and whatnot. But there's a lot more, too.
Yes.
Or communists. You see a lot of these stories. One of our dad's ex-girlfriends, for some reason, thought I was some sort of being radicalized by YouTube or something. I don't know. Back in 2015. So she sent me an article. This was after they'd broken up. It's kind of weird. She sent me this article talking about this. She's like, yeah, you think you should look at this. So I read it. And it was about this guy that had... they talk a lot about the algorithm, the YouTube rabbit hole that makes you become an extreme alt-righter or something.
Yeah. Which
is kind of no personal responsibility whatsoever. You can... not click on the videos. You can search for the video. Actually, nowadays you can't even search for videos on YouTube. Sorry. But have you noticed that actually on YouTube? The search doesn't work anymore?
Yeah.
It just gives you recommended?
Yeah, it gives you recommend. And even so, you'll search a term. This really annoys me. And I'll search something. I'll search exactly. And I know what the video I'm looking for is. And then I'll go down. And then I'll split a section. It's like videos similar to what you search. Videos that you watch.
Yeah, no, it's become useless. So nowadays there might actually be an argument for that to a degree. But you can just not engage in YouTube whatsoever. You don't have... YouTube isn't the only realm of engagement in existence.
Yeah.
So, this guy, he became quite racist and, actually, he was like, oh, it's... And sexist. He's like, women and Jews, they're all the problem, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then, I think he might have been one of the people that ContraPoints helped out, actually. Helped out, I'll put it in quotation marks. I think this might have been the article about her, the first one about her, majorly.
Yeah.
But he started watching a bunch of these left-wing videos, and he became this, crazy commie. And that was the moral of the story was, of this article is, yeah, look at him, he's saved now.
We do not worry about the people who are in the middle ground.
Yeah. Like, it's...
Sorry, no, those are our greatest concern, the people in the middle ground, because people who are...
Yeah, the extremists, they'll just flip around. Like,
yeah.
Like, you see a lot with Ethan Klein.
Yeah.
He did that. I mean, like, the Bible Reloaded, you get Amazing Atheist. These people... And that's the sort of concern I was talking about last time, where there's these people that they're the broken clock that's right once, currently.
Yeah.
But whenever the thing changes, they're just going to be... They were always ideologically possessed. They just thought everyone else was around them. But everyone was actually just saying, no, right now we need to readjust things.
Well, I think we've even seen the shredding a part of that already to an extent. And by that I mean, in 2012 to 2015, there was that sort of anti-woke, oh, let's make fun of the SJW. There was a very big crowd of people.
Yeah.
And they have sort of fractured.
Yeah, a lot of them have become SJWs, but different kinds, because they didn't realize that it wasn't just people talking about a specific issue that was the problem.
Shoe head and armed skeptic.
Like, sure, they laughed at the crazy feminists, but the communists were the problem. And not just the communists. The communists are just a symptom of it, but the communists are the much bigger problem.
Yeah.
And the armed skeptic, I don't know about. Like, he's just changed content as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Like, he just likes talking about silly conspiracy theories now, as far as I'm aware. But I haven't watched him in a while.
Yeah, same. But I'm saying there was this fraction, a part of them. Wizard of a Cause switched into extreme nihilism. And I mean, it's very logical nihilism. And sometimes you can see the glimmer of hope in life and you talk about good things. But that is a man that's been beaten up by the world so much that he's...
Well, he had his son taken from him, right? Like,
his daughter.
His daughter, yeah.
Yeah, and he fought forever to get her back. And he had a ton of stuff. Like, just a ton of stuff. And so he's a man that's... incredibly bright and would be a usually normal, hopeful person if the world hadn't kicked him while he was down.
Yeah.
And so he fractured apart in his own different way, and it's sort of like a lot of that.
And his case, I think, is a bit more understandable.
Yeah.
I still think it's not the right option, but it's like... It's not just that he wasn't understanding the underlying cause, it's more that circumstance didn't allow him to...
Yeah.
The circumstances were greater than his capabilities to deal with them.
Yeah.
And hopefully that he will become stronger than the problems at some point in the future. Or if he hasn't already. I don't know if you've seen him recently or not.
Well, I mean, he's switched what he's done. Like, he was part of the thing, but he switched. He is very nihilistic in his views now. So,
you don't want to be evil. Therefore, you'll go against your inner convictions to support the group. After all, it's perfect. The desire to conform has surpassed your convictions. And to be fair, your doubts could reveal your lack of understanding of the ideology as a whole, rather than the weakness of the ideology. For example, Christianity, if you just blindly follow it, you're in fairly good hands most of the time. Now, it depends who's actually you're listening to, because then you get creationists, and you get people that hate the gays, and you get people who don't wear mixed cloth, and you get people, like, you get some... But
that's just the radical don't wear mixed cloths are at it again with their attacks.
Well,
he's wearing burgundy and Marlowe. How dare he?
I think that's the thing that you can quite easily identify who is not easily, but it's a very good rule of thumb for who is in the right in a situation, who's in the wrong. Because you have to on occasion think, wait, am I the crazy one? Like, are all these
I pick burgundy and Marlowe. Those
are all these mainstream media, like these corporate media companies, are they the ones that right? Am I crazy? Have I totally lost the plot?
Yeah.
What you get, though, is the attackers, by rule of thumb, are quite often the people who are in the wrong. So the Amish, for example, if they were going around destroying technology and like holding people at at musket point to throw
maybe pitchforks
they're cut off like 1600s or something.
So it'd be like big old blunderbuss.
It'd be smoothbore musket.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a rifle, but it would be smoothbore musket. And they would be, because guns have been around for ages. Rifles are the new technology. I'm sure there's even ancient rifles. It's just they would have been much more rare, because very hard to make back with the boring technology back then, the rifling technology, I guess. So the Amish are just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And so they can do whatever they want, really. Like, who cares? Like, yeah. I mean, as long as they're not murdering people and what, in their little communities.
Very quickly building a barn around your house and imprisoning you inside it.
Yeah. So it's the people that attack. Now, where it gets complicated is something like Gamergate, where what happened was a games journalist was in a relationship with a game developer and didn't disclose it. And so people complained that they were biased.
Yeah.
And that turned into, oh, so you don't think women can write unbiased reviews? You hate women? Because it was what happened was the media was defending itself, and the media is the one that gets to tell everyone what's going on.
Yeah.
So the media is very good at defending itself because they get to say, well, crazy people were attacking us for these crazy sexists were attacking us. No, it was because of potential corruption. But you aren't the media, so you can't actually voice your view.
Yeah.
You aren't the what are they called? News. That's it. I was like, media, that's everything. Then you aren't the news. So you can't as easily get your point out there, which is where YouTube became quite useful, actually.
Yeah.
But then you had the issue of, now you have the issue of YouTube trying to crack down on freedoms to a degree, more for money than for anything. Like YouTube, I don't think YouTube is actually ideologically possessed one way or the other, really. I mean, like Susan Wojcicki said, she wants to show terrorist stuff to people all the time, but I'm not actually like she was she's one of the developers of AdSense, like the original developers. I think she's very money focused. Like YouTube was losing money hand over fist until she took over, and then it started making money like crazy. She's very good at making money, and that could just be what this is all about, is just making money.
Yeah.
She just wants to corporatize YouTube into something like cable television, and who cares who gets caught under the wheels? I'm making money. I think that's probably what's going on to the large degree. Which is what I said years ago on this podcast, actually. So, it was one with Romney on, I believe. So you get... don't remember where that tied in, but anyways. So, to be fair, you could misunderstand something, but a good rule of thumb for determining if you are misunderstanding something or not is, are you coming to me and forcing me to change? Yes. If I'm just doing my own thing, then we can... Like, if you want to have your own little commune, like be a communist, actually join an Amish community. That's basically as good as it gets for communism.
So, basically how you can know you're in the right is you're sweeping the street. That guy runs up and punches you and says, "We use mops here, fool!" And then he runs off and like, what?
But where it gets complicated is with, governments and counter-protests and protests in general, because the government is making you do something, so you protest against it, but then you're forcing other people to do something. So that's where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
But if I go into an Amish enclave and tell them, you're all crazy and you need to start using cell phones, I am clearly the bad guy in that situation.
Yeah.
I have no reason to impact their life. This is actually similar to... So this is actually interesting. That is not what communists think at all.
Yeah.
So Marx, he wrote an essay called The Jewish Problem. His problem with Jews was that they had a strong sense of self-identity and private property. And the problem with that was Marx saw that this naturally led to individual rights. But he didn't want people to have individual rights. He wanted you to have a right to another person. So he wanted you to be able to have right to... So someone said, "I don't want to see you today." You're like, "No, you're going to play golf with me today." Like, that's the sort of society Marx wanted. Don't be selfish. You're playing golf with me today. Marx wanted a society where people didn't have individual rights. He didn't think they should have individual property, because if you have individual property, you can tell someone to get off of it. You have the right to be apart. He wanted people to have a right to everyone else, a right to be brought closer together. So one thing I don't think a lot of Marxists see, people who haven't... I actually have a lot of respect for Marx in some ways, because he thought his ideology through. He knew all the logical consequences of his ideology, and that is what he wanted to happen. Whereas a lot of these Marxists blindly think that, oh, well, it's just everyone getting along like now, but there's no money and they don't have to work. Ow. It's everyone getting along right now, like we are right now, but we have no money, I don't have to work as hard, and the CEO has to give me his share. That isn't what Marx was talking about at all. Marx outlined basically all the consequences of communism. He said, never give up your gun. You need your gun. There's going to be a bloody revolution. He talked about how he hated progress, right? Like, he hated how capitalism led to progress. He didn't like that. He wanted society to stop because progress, as he saw it, led to... Because he was alive during the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
So he saw if people have unbridled freedom, then they start making factories and they start getting children to work in the factories, and then they start making new and better technologies, and that encourages them to do new, and society's constantly shifting. He didn't want progress because he saw all the horror it led to. It led to these children getting killed and whatnot. And he didn't see us coming out the other end of it. So he was a very, very conservative man, which is another aspect of him which I don't think people, the idiots who promote Marx without reading him, understood. Like, Marx also didn't want the bourgeoisie to be the leaders of a communist revolution. He wanted the working class to rise up as a natural consequence. He didn't want the elite to engineer it, as it's happened like every time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I'm a university professor and I'm going to tell these poor working... No, that's the exact kind of person he hated. What he said was a natural consequence of progress is that the conservative working class is eventually going to say enough is enough, and they're going to form a giant commune where they're just all farmers and they give each other food, essentially.
They form a giant convoy and honk their horns at you.
No, not at all. They're going to stop society in its tracks forever. Because progress is destroying society. So they're going to... Just like super Amish, basically.
So is the space race basically kind of the opposite of communism? Or Marxism, anyways?
That was government driven. So it wasn't driven by individual innovation. Yeah. However, you could argue like there was no individual creating a space program. That is very recent with Blue Origin and SpaceX and Virgin Galactic now. Yeah. That's because it's ridiculously expensive. So he hated the freedom and individualism of capitalism, which led to progress. Yeah. So I think government-directed expansion he wouldn't necessarily be against, although I haven't read much Marx, so take this with a grain of salt. But I don't think he would be against it because as long as it was done carefully by people who were thinking it through by committee, rather than... Because what he was against was the tragedy of the commons, right?
Yeah.
And he was, it's obvious that you have to tell people you're not allowed to dump garbage into the communal water supply.
Yeah.
So as long as the government is directing all technology, you can avoid, you're like, well, you're not allowed a factory that uses children to fix the running gears. You have to turn your factory off every Sunday and repair everything with adults who are qualified. Like, that's the sort of society I think he would have wanted, probably. Yeah. But I've only read, like, part of The Jewish Problem, and then there's anecdotal stuff about Marx. So I am no expert in Marxism, but it's kind of remarkable how far off base a lot of self-professed Marxists are, just based on those simple principles alone. So,
well, I think a lot of it does come from the Communist Manifesto, which is like a leaflet.
Yeah, but that is where he talks about his extreme conservatism and hating progress, which is not... You often see progressive communists, which is...
I'm not talking about Marx's Communist Manifesto. I'm talking about the Communist Manifesto, which is separated from Marx.
Okay.
It's like a pamphlet little book.
I'm pretty sure he wrote that. And I'm pretty sure that's where he talked about him hating progress.
Okay. I have no extra.
So, there was something else there with Marx that was interesting. Well, maybe it'll come to me. Okay, so, if your ideology is perfect... So your doubts are revealing a lack of understanding, so they could be. You've put your faith in leaders or God, the people who've thought about this that know what they're talking about. If your ideology is perfect, anything which questions is therefore evil. We've kind of gone over that. There is no improving perfection. So doubt of your ideology is an attack. You can't improve upon perfection. Are we sure we should be doing this? That's an attack against perfection, so that's evil. So doubt is evil. Now, what you can do, I guess, based on what we said before, is you cannot doubt the walls, but you can build them closer in. So you can say, wait, should we exclude pineapple on pizza? But you can say, should we exclude avocado, which we haven't done yet? So I think you can add to it, but you cannot take away.
Yeah.
So, therefore, you have to stop those who question your ideology. I guess you can accept those who add to it as long as they're adding further exclusions, which is kind of a frightening thought if that is the case. It is good to do away with evildoers, because how can preventing an assault on the perfect and good be anything but good?
Yeah.
That makes sense to you?
It's Can you say that again? Sorry, you flipped over your piece of paper and it's like the boss having an extra bar of health. I was like, there's more!
So it's good to do away with evildoers.
Yeah.
Because how can preventing an assault on perfection be anything but good?
Okay, yeah. No, I understand that.
So, like, it's good to defend Gondor.
Yes.
It's good to defeat Voldemort. It's good to attack those that seek to bring down your society.
Yes.
It's good to defend against those. So, yeah, they are assaulting perfection. That is the definition of evil, right? Anyone that will try to destroy what is already perfect is evil.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, I think. I'd ask, why are they trying to destroy it?
Yeah.
Probably because they're lost to some degree. Or that would be the ideological possession. Or there's something wrong with my ideology that I'm unaware of.
Yeah.
Or they're just hurt and they're lashing out, I guess. So I guess you could have pity for the people, but that were just, you're like, oh, you just don't understand.
Spare no pity for your enemy, for he has no pity for you.
No, I think you could have pity, right? You could say, well, you don't understand my ideology, I'm going to teach you, right? So if someone goes against your ideology, you could say, well, I'll explain it to you. And then they're part of it, and then they stop attacking it. So it's good to stop the attacks, I think. Either through education or martial action, whatever. Yeah. Defend your ideology is essentially good, though. However you end up doing it. This, of course, can lead to atrocities, which I'll get into. But it is already leading to people acting against their own self-interest, as we talked about as well. Well, I mean, with Marxists that are thinking, oh, have you seen those posts of, like, what would you do after the communist revolution? People are like, I would be teaching people about about poetry in the gulag, or re-educating them on the glory of the society, or and then there's this joke where it shows, like, the actual authoritarians, because, you know, there's real authoritarians within the movement that will rise to the top, like Stalin. Yeah. And they will, you know, like Stalin said, the man who counts the votes is in charge of the country. Like, that's what Stalin said. He was the secretary for the Communist Party. He wasn't the leader, he was the secretary.
Yeah.
Lenin was the leader, and then Lenin gave it to Trotsky.
Yeah.
But Stalin was the guy in charge.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy that read the letters. He's the guy that counted the votes. He's the guy. And then he just maneuvered into position. So, so the joke is that these people are saying, like, oh, I will be re-educating people in the gulags. Or I will be...
How can you ever associate something positive with the word gulag and its history?
Re-education?
Yes, that too.
Well, this is where I think you start acting against your self-interest, where you don't you think, well, this is good, and therefore everything that leads to it is also good. And so that's where consequentialism comes from, right?
Yeah.
If the goal is good, then all actions that lead towards that goal are also good. Mm-hmm. You're aiming for heaven. Anything that gets in the way is evil, and it can be dealt with impunity.
I mean, there's so many pieces of media. I mean, even the Tower of Babylon's an example of us.
Babel.
Yeah, Babel.
Babylon was a city of evil.
Yeah, sorry. Babel. But we are aiming for heaven. And then a lot of really bad stuff happens. Like, sort of the fall of Babel, but Dragon Age Origins is priests literally opened up a gate to heaven, and then they didn't consider what does opening up a gate to heaven mean, and all the evil of their world went into heaven, and then poured back a lot worse and destroyed them. And
yeah, well, I think a lot of people don't realize what something's talking about. They ignore the parts of it that they don't like, and they take the parts of it they do like. And I think that happens to everyone, like myself included.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that really bothers me is there's a line in Harry Potter I agree with quite strongly, which is progress for, like, you shouldn't do progress for progress' sake, right? Like, you shouldn't just progress for the sake of progress. You should have some meaning behind it, right? I quite like that line. You know who says it?
Voldemort?
Worse.
Bellatrix?
Worse. Dolores Umbridge.
Ah.
She's using it to justify racism because she's saying, like, there's the there's the magical, the non-wizard magical peoples act, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And she's saying, and I think Hermione or someone's saying, like, you have to allow these people into, like, centaurs and goblins and whatnot into society because of this act. And she said, well, progress for progress' sake isn't good. So she's using it for a terrible reason. She's a terrible person.
Yeah.
But I like the line. But so that's the thing where you discard all the bits around it, and you're like, yeah, see, Harry Potter agrees with me. It's like in Mein Kampf where he said blonde people are smart. I don't actually know if he talked about the Aryans in there, but I haven't actually read it. But I fear it's quite boring. Right, so moving on. The atrocities grow as members of the group start conforming to what they think the group thinks rather than to what the group thinks. That's what I talked about where groupthink.
Yeah.
This, of course, leads to radicalization and polarization. You start excluding everyone that's slightly different, and you become more and more extreme within your group because every time someone says something, you think, oh, this is the calm person, and so everyone else is 10 times higher sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it just becomes higher and higher and higher. And the more you say things when you don't speak the truth, or you speak, you're trying to please other people, the more you believe the lies you're speaking. So, you have something?
Is the moderate and this, I know we've talked about this before, but moderate and the centrist so hated because I'm the blue coat, you're the red coat, right?
Yeah.
We hate each other.
Yeah.
We absolutely hate each other. We know why we hate each other. And then there's this guy who could go either way. He's a traitor. He's like, he could be either way. It's like, oh, he could be part of us, but he could also be a part of them. And so, since he could join our cause, but then he could switch, this man is a traitor in waiting. He's like the worst thing possible. He is someone who corrupts our idea by going to theirs.
Maybe. I think it could also be they are the only person that can destroy your movement. The enemy can't destroy your movement because they're the opposite of you, and anyone that hates them naturally falls into your movement. However, the centrist is able to tear down your movement because they can draw people away from you.
Yeah.
Like a Nazi can't... although maybe that's not true because the whole ContraPoints thing, the guy flipped from being far right to far left. I don't know. Why there's... It could be because there's less respect for people that aren't similarly ideologically possessed. You say, well, look, they have their beliefs that they stand by. They're wrong, but at least they stand by their beliefs. Yeah. This guy, he's a coward. He doesn't even have beliefs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you're a traitor in waiting.
Well, I don't think a traitor, a coward.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, coward.
And cowards are... Nobody likes a coward. Although the traitor idea is interesting because people hate traitors.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they would be considered a traitor in waiting. Because someone like Jordan Peterson...
Well, they're already a traitor, not even a traitor in waiting. Because they have some of your ideas, but they also have the ideas of the enemy. So they're already a traitor.
I don't think so. Because someone like Jordan Peterson, for example...
Yeah.
The progressives would declare their opposite. They call him far right.
Yeah.
Like, he's a centrist, but they call him... Well, he's not even centrist. He moves, right? He's following the line. But they call him far right.
I think them calling far right is just a different way of saying enemy.
Yeah, but he's not a traitor. He's the opposite.
Okay,
they're not saying you're a leftist who destroys us. They're saying you're the opposite of us.
Yeah.
So leads to radicalization. If to be out of the group is evil, then you have to join the group, right? So that's what I was saying before. Like, you either have to destroy the outsiders or have them join the group. Yeah. And therefore the outsiders, if you want to be good according to this, you have to join the group. In the SJW case, the only path to redemption is to join the ever more extreme progressives, which is what Ethan Klein has attempted to do now. Throwing Jordan Peterson under the bus and having Hassan Piker on his show and whatnot. Communism, fascism, and Nazism have similar parallels. You're either with us or you're the enemy.
Yeah.
But progressive and Nazis specifically, so fascists and communists don't fall into this, I don't think, but progressives and Nazis have an extra problem here. They have made an immutable characteristic their devil, rather than and this is the really important part I wanted to talk about last time. So if a communist society takes over, you can become a communist. You'll live in fear. There's always the chance that they'll just do you away anyways. But you can join the communist movement. You can believe in it. You can. Same with fascism. You can dedicate yourself to the government. You can join the fascist movement.
You can serve Mussolini.
Yeah, or whoever the fascist government is. Progressives like the SJWs and Nazis, they are not the same as these other two because they made an immutable characteristic their devil rather than a mode of thought. So with communists, if you're a capitalist, you're the enemy, but you can become a communist.
Yeah.
Go to the gulag, we'll teach you to be a good communist, and then we'll let you out.
Yeah.
You can't stop being a gypsy. You can't stop being a Jew. You can't stop being a homosexual. You can't stop being straight. You can't stop being white. You can't stop being male.
Yeah.
You can't stop being old. For some reason, that also is something that the progressives seem to hate. I guess because they tend to be more conservative.
Yeah.
They don't realize that people become conservative. However regrettable it may be to the ideologues, this will inevitably lead to a final solution because there's no way to remove immutables from the world. No amount of proselytizing will make anyone less white or Jewish. No matter how good your intentions, you can't stop someone from being white. You can't stop someone from being Jewish. So it's regrettable, but if reformation is not possible, because that would be attacking the ever more pure ideology, that would make you a heretic or an infidel. So you can't reform your ideology.
Yeah.
So to get rid of evil, you can't have everyone join you. Like a communist or fascist, they can get rid of evil by having everyone join them.
Yeah.
But a progressive, eventually you have to get rid of all the white people. Like there's not really an option. Or you can just live with that evil in your world in like a little ghetto somewhere, but
have that one guy be very happy.
Well, that was the joke J-Rig made, where we forced all the white people to their own island, and for some reason all the ethno-nationalists were happy.
Yeah.
It's like, haha, we've trapped you in your own little gulag. It's like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what do? Do you keep this evil? Do you keep the devil in society? Do you just leave him there? Why?
Well, there's
like to make them a ritualized enemy, like the Aztecs did.
Well, there's that. There's also there's several narratives. I can't remember exact stories, but so that anime that I recommend to you with the giant robots that look like guardians, you enslave them.
But you are then using the devil, right? Like, should you even allow for the devil in your society?
Well, I mean, it depends on where your final qualms lie. And a lot of the times in media...
I guess slavery is the best option.
Yeah, well, in stories, so...
But why should you care about them at all?
Well, so here it is. I'm just going to make this up, but this comes from many stories heard. So, you have a hated enemy, and you enslave them. And then there's your argument there. So, one person in the council says, why do we even have these people at all? So, the view there is, these people are so evil, we can't even have them. Another person says, we can use this evil. So there's the thought...
No, but using evil would go against the purity, right?
Yeah, but someone's saying, we can live with this evil to do work for us. And then, your argument or side of this is now that person who just said we can use them
is evil.
Evil now. So they're outside of the preview. So they have to die along with all these people.
They're saying there's a use to the evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's different levels. And the pure, you want to go into the spiral, yeah, slavery's not even an option anymore. You have to kill them.
I mean, imagine, just look at it this way. Well, white people are quite useful. Like you see already the problem there. You've already said, wait, these people are actually contributing to society.
Yeah.
That destroys your ideology already. Like, oh, the Jews are actually valuable members of society. We should enslave them because they're useful. I mean, that's what the Egyptians did. And that's why the Jews are useful. Because they're like, money's boring. Here, take all the money and you're the guys that have to deal with it now. And it's like, wow, they're so rich now. Why are they so good with money? It's because nobody wanted to do it but them. And they were also able to religiously.
Yeah. Well, in the case of that anime, it's they actually did want to kill all these people. And the problem is they're using them as their military. So when you run after these people, you no longer have any competent soldiers left, and your actual enemy is going to murder you.
Yeah. But also, there's room for rebellion as well, which isn't good. Like the Romans didn't hate their slaves.
No.
Hating your slaves, I think it'd be better to kill your slaves. Not for the slaves, but for you morally. Yeah. If you have slaves you hate, that's a rebellion waiting to happen. And that is you saying, hey, these inferior, terrible people have a use.
Yeah.
Which makes them more useful than me, because all I do is...
tell them what to do.
Unless you consider leadership to be that much more valuable. But with the Jews and so do the SJWs and the Nazis have to admit at some point that, hey, white people and Jewish people, they're useful. They're less useful, of course, than us, but they're still useful.
Well, they either have to admit they have a use or they have to destroy them.
Yeah. But if you admit they have a use, then doesn't your whole narrative fall apart that...
Well, then the person who admits they have a use has to die.
Yeah. Maybe the whole narrative doesn't fall apart. Maybe I misunderstand the narrative. I'm going to drink of water. My throat's getting rough today. Which is kind of good news in a way. Because I slept funny and my neck was in severe pain this morning. I'm pretty sure... So one of the main causes for throat pain is you start speaking with your muscles instead of your vocal cords.
Yeah.
Which causes problems. And if my sleeping funny has affected my voice, then that's promising. And that would be because my shoulders has been seized for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So as my arms get better, my voice should get better naturally. It's just going to be really slow. I think I heal slower than most people too. Also, one thing you can get is a callus on your vocal cords, and that takes forever to heal. But I'm not sure if that's the case, because it apparently seems the more sore my neck is, the harder time I have talking.
Huh.
Which you can go to vocal coaches for, but I don't know how you arrange that, because you have to find one, and then you're talking a bunch, and you're... Yeah.
Maybe part of going to a vocal coach is they teach you basic sign language.
I can't do sign language. It hurts. Yeah. My arms are too messed up for me to pursue
sign language.
Helping my voice, basically.
Yeah.
And once my arms get better, my voice will probably be better. So
yeah,
just frustrating, but it's not. I see a path to it ending. It's just going to be very slow. It's unfortunate. Yeah, I think I might wrap it up there actually, just because it is feeling a little rough.
All right.
Been reading Maps of Meaning though, and not Maps, the other one, 12 Rules for Life.
Yeah.
Got to talk about that next time, because he copies our podcast. It's identical, some of the stuff he says.
I read it and then talked.
No, but we started the podcast before he wrote the book.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure.
No, he didn't. 12 Rules was written a while ago.
What, it was 2017 or something? 2018?
Yeah.
Podcast has been going for 6 years. 4 years. 4? I think it's 4. 3. I think it's 4.
Longer than 3. We had 2 episodes that had year gaps.
Yeah, so I think it's 4 years.
Well, yeah, because we did it for a good year.
I think 2017 or something was when we started.
No, it wasn't 2017. So it was in 2017 because I graduated in 2017, then we started.
Yeah.
During then. And it's continued since 2017, huh?
Yeah, the pandemic's really wrecked time, eh?
Well,
you know what I hate, actually, right? I was a single young man when the pandemic started, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm actually at the point where I'm the women my age are kind of old. And all the pretty young women are now not young, and it must be worse for women, because it's oh, I'm single and I'm 24. Now I'm 26 and I'm single. I've got to just...
Yeah, well, for me, it's I was thinking about, I was 20 when this started.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be 23. That's meant to be the 20 to 23 is kind of prime of life.
Well, it's to me, I would consider it child to adult in some ways.
Yeah.
It's weird because, right, I don't think of you as a child, right?
Yeah.
But I think of the podcast as being something I did with my little brother, but now you're basically the same age as me, because you're almost 23, and that's basically the same as 26.
Well, I find it very hard to believe that I'm almost 23. And it's no, we've only been in the pandemic for a year. I'm good.
So there's this girl I had a crush on. I still do, actually, quite a bit, but she's quite a bit younger than me. Not crazy. Not... Look. I might be libertarian, right? But I'm not that libertarian, right? No, just a few years younger. And it was, but now she's not young. It's weird. I mean, that's good in some ways.
Yeah.
But well, I no
longer get to be lecherous.
I don't know how to describe it exactly. I don't know. The youthful exuberance is gone. I don't know how to describe it in some way that doesn't sound horrible.
I mean, we can also just literally go...
okay,
I can save you with some statistics.
Well, men of any age are most attracted to 21-year-old women.
Yes.
And she was 21 at the time.
Yeah.
So same age as you, basically. And so now she's just old and washed up like you. I mean, 23 is pretty young.
I mean, you say old and washed up, but men get more discipled the older they are.
To a degree.
To a degree.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'd say to a degree, but also depending on how well they age.
But you see, there's more than one perspective, because I know people who are 20 years older than their wife.
Yeah.
And it's a great arrangement for a very long time. You can take care of your wife, you can show her the ropes, you have tons of money for her, you can, it's a great arrangement. And for the wife, you have a very strong person to look up to, amazing, they have so much experience, you can come to them with any problem, and you're young enough to look after them and help them out in the things that they're older for. It's a great arrangement. Until the wife hits about 60, and the man hits about 80.
Yeah.
because then you have a man who's going to die decades before his wife, and she's the once relationship of equals, where is now a relationship where it's an invalid and their caretaker.
Yeah.
And that's just sad. And so even though in theory I could wait until I'm 40 and like doing amazing and then marry that new 21-year-old, you know, the girl of your dreams hasn't been born yet, Connor.
No.
I mean, I ever wonder if those people that like ever think in those terms, because it is kind of true at your age, especially. But and I think it does work great, except your kids barely get, like, you don't get to see your grandkids often, and you don't get to see them for long, and you abandon your wife in some sense, and so it's doable, but I don't know if it's desirable entirely. I think you probably want to. I think men and women probably still want to get married as young as possible, and this is the thing the pandemic has done as well.
Yeah.
Is at one point it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to get married at some point probably. Now it's like, I have to work towards this because I'm running out of time, and if I don't do it soon, there will be no time left.
Yeah, well,
you have to admit that time keeps moving, and that one day you will be old and die.
What?
And it's so hard to do. It's like, I have to admit that if I do not take action towards something, it won't happen.
So for me, right before pandemic, so there's even news coming from China, like there's this thing going on, and I was thinking, okay, it won't be so bad, like we'll lock down or whatever. But right before that, so Fred and I were talking about like, oh, we're going to like go and do this stuff, and like that started talking, like the two of us going and doing a bunch of stuff. I was thinking like, all right, there's this like board game group, I'm going to go to them. I couldn't find them, so it's actually, I drove around town trying to figure out where the organization was, and I basically got lost because I have a terrible sense of direction. What?
I'm recentering my vocal cords so I can speak with less strain.
Yeah, so I couldn't find the place, and then basically that day after, it's like, I'm going to meet some people here, going to play board games, going to like socialize, I want to increase my social bubble because a bunch of my friends have moved away. And the day after that, we're in lockdown. And that actually, it was the day after that we were in lockdown. And it was like, what? No! And also I was like, I was looking up different martial art groups, like, I'm going to join these martial arts and I'm going to socialize. And also saying, I want to like go around to the different churches in Whitehorse. Like, I want to go visit the Mormons. I want to visit the Catholic. I want to go to this church and just see what's up with them, because I was getting more interested in church as a communal thing. I was just like, I want to see the different communities. And then it's like, nope, you can't paint this.
So with me, I had been horribly sick in 2014 and horribly upset, and all those things were recovering by 2019.
Yeah.
I was still doing kind of rough, but I was getting better. And then, but about like midway through 2019 or so, I was feeling way better. I was like, okay, I'm not sure if I can do a job just yet, but I'm feeling actually, I think I will. Sorry, I was applying for jobs a bit in mid 2019. And I asked this girl I had a crush on that I was talking about earlier out.
Yeah. And
she didn't say no. I'm not going to say she said yes, but I said, hey, do you want to go? And she said, where? Which I kind of count as a yes, personally.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, how about here? And she's like, yeah, okay. I'm just busy, so next week.
Yeah.
So that sounds to me like an arrangement. It's like, that sounds like a yes, right?
Yeah.
And then I got called for jury duty. And so I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be a while. And then her job took her out doing stuff for like a month. Yeah. And we just didn't talk that whole period, and so just sort of drifted apart. The plans drifted apart entirely, basically. And because it was sort of like a will they, won't they sort of situation from an outsider's perspective, not my own, I guess. A sort of is it not sort of perspective. It was already loose to begin with. You sort of drift into an easier... Sadly, it's easier to be a coward, right? It's easier to not push forward. So it just sort of fell apart.
Yeah.
But then I got a job, like shortly after she was about to come back. I got a job working for Elections Canada with that election.
Yeah.
And that job really reinvigorated me. It's like, I can actually work. I can make money. And it's like, okay. And so I was like, I'm going to now take the rest of the year off. I'm going to finish my book. I'm going to publish it. So I did that. Yeah. And then I got, at the start of January, I got horribly sick. From my friend Travis. I think I can say his name because there's a lot of Travises out there. Yeah. And I know a lot of Travises, so I think it's fine. And I'm going to theorize that he is patient zero of COVID. Because I was sick for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And I know it was him that gave it to me. And So I wasn't seeing any friends whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'd been working, I'd been writing my book, and then I got sick for 3 months. I'd seen some people over New Year's, but that was it. So I couldn't see this girl, obviously. I couldn't see my friends because I was horribly sick. March happened, and I was about to meet up with some friends before they went off to school. And so it was like the last big meetup. And then the one friend said, well, actually, sorry, I'm going off on a trip to Germany. So we couldn't do that. But then he's like, okay, when you come back. So it was like right near the end of March, he was coming back from this trip to Germany. I was feeling better. Friends were all together. And then the lockdown hit. And it was like, wow. And, and also
Your arms also broke.
Yeah, right around the same time.
And I came back around that time as well.
So, yeah, and then later I talked to the girl, and she said no, so maybe she had time to think about her mistakes.
Yeah.
Of saying yes in the first.
The old geezer.
Yeah. But it's not a. It actually bothered me, the age difference. Like it's not much. It was like 4 years or something, 2 years, 3. I don't know, but it bothered me still.
Yeah.
It was definitely not a case of me being interested in them for their age. It was because of the person. It was the person to an extreme that I almost wished it wasn't them because they were younger, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but all the people my age now, ugh, I mean, 26, no. No, I think, no. It doesn't matter too much, but it's extreme. Like, okay, that's the thing that blows my mind, I guess. It was like very youthful to, not youthful.
Yeah.
Not old, but not youthful. And then people my age are like halfway to middle aged, let's say.
Yeah, well, even when I was in Lethbridge, I had this really weird thing where, so, one of my few friends that I made there, he's, like, older than you. And he's one of those guys who, he's working and going to school at the same time.
Ew, some creeps hanging out with a young kid.
Well, no, so, the thing was, so, I was fine hanging out with him. And I was about 20 around that time. Like, I was 19? Was I 19 or 20?
I don't know.
Anyways.
One of my closest friends when I was 18 was 27, so I'm not going to...
Yeah. Anyways, so, but, no, I was 20. And then all my classmates were 17 and 18. And when you're 20 and everyone around you is 17 and 18, you're like, what? These are children. And it made it very hard for me to connect with all of them. That's why most of my friends that I made were people around my age or older at that point in time.
Well, that happened to me when I was reset to first year in UVic.
Yeah.
It was like, I went to the class and it's like, all these people are doing all this very social stuff, but it's like puppy social stuff where you all get together and it was, the only other people that weren't doing it were these two girls that were like a year older than me. And they were the people I was instantly more attracted to. I'm going to say attracted in the sense of like, I felt kinship with them, right? It was like, oh man, we're doing this again. It's like, yeah.
Well, the group project we did in that class, it was with all us guys who are older. Like, we all got together in a group. And there's this one guy who didn't have a group, and he was like in a completely different course, and we basically invited him over to do the project with us. And he was also around our age.
And I think what it is it's everyone's like, oh, this is a new experience. We're making friends as a school. We're going to get started. But when I was in my psychology class, which was a bunch of third year students, which is younger than you, I think, third year even.
Yeah.
But we were like the old people of the university.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I'd be in 5th year.
Yeah, I'm almost the age of a PhD student.
I'd be going on to a master's right now.
But in my psychology class, we were all like third year students, which is 21, I guess. I was going to say like old, but 21 was the age of the girl I thought was way too young for me. But 21 is when I felt old.
Yeah.
Wow, it was weird.
Yeah, I know.
I think the pandemic's partly responsible. I'm going to say because like those 2 years felt compressed. I feel like I went from like 23 to 26 in no time, basically.
That's the same with me. I went from 20 to being almost 23 now.
And there's a big gap there. It's a very different feeling.
Like, I feel like I've lost this part of my life.
So when I was old and 21, we were more laid back and just like, we'll show up to class if we need to do the work. But, and we all did fine in class. Like, everyone in the class was just kind of, show up if it's important, but, we got other stuff to do. And we did our projects. We, like, when we had a group project, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to have a party and we'll talk. It was like, okay, I'll meet you at the school at this time in the library. We'll do this. We'll do, like, much more adult. Mm-hmm. Kind of makes me feel bad about the 21-year-old, actually, because it's so weird, though, how perception changes. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, 21's like a baby, but then it's like, I mean, no, I did not think that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pursued in the slightest. But I was thinking, like, man, is this a bit too young? But now it's like, wow, I was old when I was 21. I was third year.
Yeah. And
Jeez.
we will leave it there.
Yeah.
I'm worried that I can make you keep talking, so.
Oh, I can make myself keep.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, so.
you